Hello and welcome to Devil's Advocate. The left parties are the crutch the government rests upon. Without its support, the UPA government simply wouldn't exist. And yet differences between the two are emerging and are in danger of proliferating. So where is the relationship at? That's the key question that I shall put today to CPM Politburo member and Rajya Sabha MP Sitaram Yechuri. Mr. Yechuri, there's a widespread impression that there are serious differences between the left parties as a whole and the government on a range of subjects. For instance, you've clashed over the USA, over Iran, over airports, over FDI, the budget, PSU disinvestment, even EPF interest rates. Is the distance between the left parties and the government growing?
Well, there are certain areas where we think the decisions of the government are not in consonance with what we would consider to be the interests of the country and the people.
But is this distance growing? Because it seems to be getting further and further apart.
Definitely. I mean, there is a definite growth in the distance, let's say, in certain areas. That is, in the question of India's foreign policy, there has been what we think a serious departure from what has been committed by the government, by the UPA in the National Common Minimum Program.
And where else is there growth?
Well, the growth is there elsewhere. The growth is there on issues which are not contained in the Common Minimum Program, but which are decisions that are being taken.
So in a nutshell, between 2004 when the government came into being and now roughly 21 months later, the differences between the left parties and the government have increased.
Yeah, but I do not think this is unnatural.
No, that's not
no, the reason why I'm saying this is that it should not be measured in terms of an increase or a decrease. There will be issues on which there will be conformity, there will be issues on which there will be dispute.
Quite right, but you did just say that in the last 21 months, on several issues, the differences, the distance has increased.
Yeah, the distance has emerged. I mean, more than increased. Again, it's not a question
more
of
than increased, it's emerged.
Some differences have emerged, which were not there in 2004.
Since January the 1st this year, the CPM Politburo and the left parties as a whole have issued 25 statements either disagreeing with or were seriously criticizing government decisions. In fact, in one instance, you issued 4 statements on one subject in just 1 week. Is that a sign that tolerance of the differences is shrinking?
No, this is a sign. I mean, I won't question your numbers. I'm sure you've done your homework. But what I would really say is that it is a sign, definitely, of the left parties wanting the government to adhere to not what we want the government to do. It's not the left agenda. We want them to adhere to the Common Minimum Program to which they themselves are committed.
Quite right. And you've had to take actually to issuing formal protest statements. That's a sign that in fact the adherence is not there.
Yes, where we think that the adherence is on the decline, or let's say not as committed as it ought to be, yes, we are expressing our differences.
And you're expressing it starkly and sometimes very publicly.
I believe that is the honest and candid way to go about it.
The problem is that you're being ignored. No matter what the subject, the left parties have their say, but the government ends up having its way.
I don't think so, not at all.
Don't you? No. Let me quote you, Jyoti Basu. We are protesting against their decisions, but they are not heeding our objections.
Yes,
are not heeding our objections.
On certain issues, but on many issues, they have had to accept our positions. They had to, in fact, go back in reverse. Remember the Navaratna?
Really? Let me quote you A.B. Bardhan, 17th of February. Just listen to him. We write to them, we talk to them, we put pressure. We may bark at any length, but nowadays they don't understand all this and they implement their own policies. They do what they want.
Listen, Mr. Raba. You see, all these statements have been made definitely in terms of one specific issue. Now, you cannot take them out and generalize them for the overall reaction. And secondly, and more importantly, yes, there have been many issues on which we have, because of our pressure, they had to backtrack.
Just 2 issues on which they backtracked.
Disinvestment in
bail, and one other, which is the food subsidy.
No.
That's it.
No, on your petroleum price hikes. No, please. On your petroleum price hike. Listen.
Let's take the issues. You say this is all connected with one issue. Let's then look at a range of issues. Jyoti Basu calls George Bush a terrorist. Brinda Karat calls him a killer. Prakash Karat says he should be treated as a war criminal. What does the Prime Minister do? He breaks with protocol and goes to the airport to receive him and calls him an honored guest. I put it to you, that's a slap on your face.
No, not at all. And secondly, don't say that he broke the protocol only for George Bush. He went to receive the Saudi king. And then none of
Not
you...
a man that you
No, no,
consider
no,
a killer,
not
a man that you want treated as a war criminal. It's that connection that I'm talking about.
But nobody really made out the fact that he also broke the protocol to go to receive the Saudi king.
Except for the fact that you had no objections
No,
there.
no,
Here,
no.
you called George Bush a killer, a terrorist.
We have no objection here as well. It is his style of functioning. It's up to him.
All right.
If he wants to do this.
Let's come to substantive issues in that case. In June 2005, you had serious objections with the Indo-US Defense Agreement. What did the Prime Minister do? 1 month later, he took it one step further and concluded a global democracy initiative. In July 2005, you have serious reservations with the nuclear understanding achieved in Washington. Last week, what does the Prime Minister do? He formalizes into a deal. It seems, no matter what your objections, the Prime Minister ignores them.
On this score, yes. On this score, yes, and we are publicly on record and we shall continue to, both in the Parliament and outside, oppose it, and you'll have the Prime Minister
but your
making...
opposition doesn't amount to anything.
What do you mean anything? But because of that, what do you think the nuclear deal was all about?
Let me give you an example of how helpless you are.
Please understand. The nuclear deal would not have been the way it was but for the pressure.
Oh, that's what you say. Forgive me.
The scientific
That's
computing.
what you say.
That is what is the fact.
That's not a fact.
That is the truth.
Listen to me, then. I'll prove it to you. I'll prove it to you. At 11 a.m. on March the 2nd, Sitaram Yechuri said, and I quote, "If the UPA government succumbs to US pressure on the nuclear deal, they will have to face the consequences."
Correct.
2 hours later, the Prime Minister called your bluff, signed the deal and said he'd made history.
No, I'm sorry.
He did, yes.
Listen, what was the deal he signed on? What did I say? If the UPA government does not keep the apprehensions that we have raised, it'll be in serious trouble. All the apprehensions have been met because of the pressure.
Which is why 2 hours earlier you were threatening consequences.
No.
So either you were ignorant, or the Prime Minister called your bluff.
Nothing, neither. The Prime Minister accepted our concerns. And that is the fact.
All right.
The Prime Minister accepted the concern, and that is what you have to accept
I'm
as well.
glad you've interpreted it as acceptance, because let's come to another example. In September, you said to the Prime Minister that he shouldn't vote against Iran at the IAEA. What did he do? He voted against Iran. In February, you wrote him a letter.
That time he managed not to have a vote.
No, in September there was a vote, and India voted against Iran. In February, you wrote to the Prime Minister saying, please don't vote against Iran a second time. What did he do? He voted against Iran. As a result, this week, Iran has been referred to the United Nations Security Council, the one outcome you wanted to avoid at all costs.
Yes, we are absolutely critical. We think the government played along with the US interests, and this is wrong for the interests of the country. And yes, and we are going to, I mean, the discussion will be there in the Parliament this week.
On Friday, the day we're recording this interview, you issued yet another press statement.
On this issue.
This makes
exactly what we are saying.
This makes it statement number 26. Now, what did you say? You said the government had capitulated to US pressure. This is against our vital interests. Our independent foreign policy has been compromised. You know what the Prime Minister is going to do?
Correct.
He's going to smile, roll up your statement and throw it in the dustbin.
Thank you for telling me what he'll do. You seem to be knowing better than I do.
But you're not changing government policy. But you're not changing government policy.
But that doesn't detract a word from what we said or the position. Why? What is the problem in it?
You're complaining, you're publicly issuing statements, criticizing, and what does the government do? It pays no attention whatsoever.
So, we will continue to put the pressure. If they don't accept it,
you're being
then
taken
it's up to
for
them.
a ride.
No, it's
you're being made use of.
I'm sorry. The consequences they will have to bear. And what those consequences are, that they know very well, we know very well, the country knows very well.
I'm very keen to take up this implicit threat that you've just thrown out.
What is implicit? There's nothing implicit or explicit in this. It is very clear. The moment we said,
do so, I want for the audience's sake to actually switch and talk about the extent to which on domestic issues the differences between the government are glaring. Let me give you an example. In December, the government announced that the EPF interest rate would be cut to 8.5%. Your leader in the Lok Sabha said, there is no question of accepting this at any cost. Your leader in the Rajya Sabha said, this is totally unacceptable, it has to be reversed. No, 3 months have passed, it hasn't been reversed, your party's eaten crow.
Well, I'm not going to oblige you if you want me to withdraw my support and make this government fall.
No,
that is your agenda. I'm not going to oblige you. No, I'm not going to oblige you. No, but listen, yes, I'm telling you that to the extent possible, to the last possible extent, we will continue to put our pressure to get things done in the interest of the people.
But this is what I'm saying, that this so-called last possible extent actually means that you
No,
give
you're
in
not,
every time.
you're only seeing one side of the picture.
Oh, I'm seeing the
No, you're
only
not.
possible side.
Listen, then listen to me for a minute. The initial proposal of the government was to increase the price of petrol by 11 rupees, the price of diesel by 10 rupees, the price of kerosene by 5 rupees, and the price of a gas cylinder
So
by
you
100
scored
rupees.
a little victory
No,
in
hang
petroleum
on.
prices 6
It's
to 8
not-
months
it's
ago.
not-
Are you going to
it's
live on
not-
that
it's-
forever?
And please remember, and don't be so condescending, it's not a little victory. There are crores of people who have benefited out of that.
You lost
it's
out
not-
on
it's
Delhi
not-
and Bombay airport privatization. You lost out on FDI in retail. You tried to put
What?
pressure on the budget. You lost out on that.
Precisely, yes. There are all these issues on which we'll put pressure and try and extract the maximum.
Let me give you an example of the extent to which this government really doesn't care about the left. FDI in retail is a specific issue on which your sister party, the CPI, has a manifesto where they oppose it completely, categorically. What does the government do? It first gives permission for FDI in single brand retail, and now the finance minister in interviews is saying that FDI in retail across the board in metros could be possible within the next 2 or 3 years.
What the finance minister says, he's been saying for the last 2 years that he is going to increase the FDI in insurance. He's been saying a lot of things. Let us see
He
what
says he's bringing a bill in this session of Parliament.
He said in the last 2 budgets before presenting that he is going to bring a bill to increase the FDI in insurance. Has that happened?
Oh, but it's not
Please don't
he's
go to
confirmed,
me
he's confirmed in interviews that the bill that will do
whatever he
so will
will
be
be,
tabled in this session of the House.
we react to the government on the basis of its policies, not on the basis of statements.
In which case,
And neither
in
on
which
the
case,
basis of please, neither on the basis of your interpretation of these
look
statements.
at the agenda that they've set themselves for the next 6 months. FDI in mining, increasing FDI in insurance, deregulating banking, reforming pensions, disinvesting PSUs. They're even talking in the newspapers of hire and fire and textiles. None of this do you like, but you're not putting them up.
No, you are telling me this agenda. Neither the government nor the ministers concerned.
Forgive me.
None of them have given us this agenda.
Mr. Chidambaram talks about this
yes.
repeatedly.
I've told you about the interviews. I've told you what has appeared in the interviews in the last 2 years. But that didn't happen. We will see what is the
This is where
policy.
you're wrong. It does. On the 19th of January in Calcutta, speaking about the disinvestment of PSU shares, which was still at that point a possibility, Mr. Prakash Karat, your General Secretary, said the sale of shares in public sector units to garner a few thousand crores is bad policy, bad economics, and bad politics.
Correct.
We cannot accept this.
It doesn't happen.
4 weeks later,
It doesn't happen.
the government is now poised
Where
to
is it
disinvest
poised?
shares
I'm
in
sorry,
the Power
I
Finance
will not-
Corporation, in the National Minimum Development
So
Corporation.
you tell me, the government has not told me.
Mr. Chidambaram has told the country in interviews.
No, interviews that the government has not
So are
told
you
me.
saying that what
It
they
is
say
not
in interviews
policy.
is baloney?
No,
No, are you saying that what they say in interviews is
I'm
baloney?
saying we will react only to policy changes. When the policy change is proposed, concretely it will come in terms of policy decisions, then we will evaluate and do. And I'm not going to react to all sorts of interviews that come up.
You accused the government of a scam when it came to privatization of Delhi and Bombay airports. Your own Politburo said that they were condemning the government for the brazen policy of privatization of the strategic sector.
We do.
Dipankar Mukherjee called it.
We
They
do.
went ahead with it.
No,
They went ahead
but
with
the
it.
matter, what we have raised, and that's why I won't go into the details of the question of the scam that you're pointing out. The matter is sub judice now. It is there in the courts, and you will see what will happen. You will see the government will have to. No, the government will have to pay the consequences.
You know the truth, in
Absolutely.
every field that I've discussed, and I've deliberately gone through a range so the audience can understand that it's not just in one issue or two, but in every field. You're not just, let me finish. You're not just being ignored, you're being used.
No, on the contrary, it is the government that has to succumb to the pressures which
What succumbing are they doing?
I'll tell you. Tell me one government in independent India that took the responsibility for the rural employment guarantee. Not one.
The rural employment
Yes, it has
guarantee
come
was
because of-
widely passed because of pressure from Sonia Gandhi, not the left parties. Everyone knows that.
Nobody knows that. Everybody knows it's because of the left's pressure these things are being done. It's whether agricultural credit growing, whether the investment, public investment in agriculture increasing.
Yechuri.
Please listen. And to the person at the ground level, these are not the matters on the basis of which he is evaluating. He is seeing whether his...
So you hope.
No,
So you hope.
I know. You will see it in the electoral results. They don't come out in TV interviews. They come out in the support at the ground level.
The left parties
That is where-
provide the support without which the government can't exist, yet the government uses that support to do all the things you're vehemently opposed to.
Yes, they are doing many things we are opposed to. Many things they are actually having to accept our pressure and do it in the interest of the country.
You know, 2 years ago, You said to me in a different interview that the left would be the watchdog of the government. I put it to you, this government treats you like a stray dog.
No, it continues to, and we shall be, and we are the watchdog. They know jolly well, and that
then
is
you're
why
not doing a lot of watching, are you? Because while you're on the watch, the government is running away with the bone.
No, it is not. It is not, and it cannot. It also knows, and all the issues on which these pressures are being put, they are being implemented.
Mr. Yechuri, you criticized the government of capitulation on Iran. They've gone ahead and done it. You don't like the US relationship, they've gone ahead and done it.
Oh, you're again coming back to those issues.
You're losing out.
No, you're again coming back to those issues.
Because they're classical examples of how you're losing out.
Deliberately, you're not picking up on those issues, which many people in this country in the earlier regime particularly.
And far between. Bail, petrol, food subsidy. The rest, Sonia Gandhi takes the credit for. You don't.
No, thank you. You can be her advocate. I have no complaints. Please be Sonia Gandhi's advocate. But the point is that educational institutions coming under social control. It was our proposal. Constitution has to be amended. It has been amended. And the proposal that, apart from the Rural Employment Guarantee Act, the proposal that has come on the tribal rights of the tribal to their forest land. The bill is drafted, it's now under consideration.
All of those are issues that the National Advisory Council has advised the government to follow.
National Advisory Council, come on, Mr. Thapa. All these things are listed in the Common Minimum Program, which was drafted under...
In which case you can't claim credit at all.
No, why?
That's the government's own thinking. It's even worse.
It is listed because of us.
But what's interesting,
I mean, don't be so ignorant of saying that in the drafting of the Common Minimum Program, we had a major role to play. And all these are issues that we have asked the government to include. They're included and they're being implemented.
Let's take a break at that point. Let's come back and ask, how long is this situation where you support a government that effectively kicks you in the teeth? How long can this continue? We'll be back in a moment's time to continue what is perhaps a discussion and what sounds to most like a quarrel. See you after the break. Welcome back to Devil's Advocate and an exclusive interview with CPM Politburo member and Rajya Sabha MP Sitaram Yechuri. Mr. Yechuri, in part one I put to you the fact that this government, which depends on the left, snubs you at every turn.
I don't think so.
You've accepted that the distance is growing.
Yes.
You've accepted that in many areas where it didn't exist, it's emerged.
Yes.
You've accepted that in fact these are issues that are important and of concern to you. How long then will you continue to support a government that effectively kicks you in the teeth?
It doesn't. If it does, they know they are not going to be in the government. It doesn't matter to us. And they...
Hey, can you explain what you mean when you say that? You say that if it continues, they know they won't be in government.
If they continue in this sort of a manner, and on many issues that I've told you, and deliberately, okay, that must be your line of argument and thinking, otherwise it won't sell. You only picked up on those issues where there's differences and not those issues that they had to implement because of the left pressure.
Let me pick up, because the audience is interested in this, what you meant by the sentence, if they continue in this manner. Last week, Prakash Karat sounded as if he'd come very close to the end of his tether when he said, be prepared to face the consequences if you are going to ignore our voice on specific policy issues. What consequences did he have in mind?
You ask him.
But you must know.
I'll tell you. The point is that you, as you said yourself, I mean, what is the great thing about asking this? The point is this government is surviving because of our support. Yes. What else can be the consequence? And that is what the government also knows.
But spell it out, because some people may be ignorant.
No, they are not. They are not. And all of them know, and everybody knows what are the consequences.
Are you suggesting that the consequence is that if the government goes too far, you will withdraw support?
That has always been the case. That is from day one. Our only Lakshman Rekha for the government, remember, our only Lakshman Rekha for the government was, and is the Common Minimum Program. But we are saying you cross that, it's at your peril.
A moment. On two critical issues, relationship with the United States and specifically the Iran nuclear issue, you have said that they have in fact breached the Common Minimum Program.
On the same issue.
So are you...
On the same issue. That is the issue of an independent foreign policy.
So are you now two examples of a breach of the same issue?
One example of one violation.
Are you close to withdrawing support?
No, that we'll discuss, we'll evaluate. Our pressure is on the government also now to amend on the nuclear thing. Please remember, one second, please remember. On the nuclear issue, and we've gone through this earlier, on the nuclear issue, our critique is not that the government did not address our apprehensions.
I'm talking about relationship with America.
Please.
Where you allege that they are too close and they are capitulating.
Our critique is that using the nuclear deal America will put pressure on which the government should not succumb.
But you've already accused them of succumbing.
No.
You've already accused them of capitulating. You did so
On
today.
Iran,
You did
Iran.
so today.
On Iran, yes, we have accused it. We'll continue to,
So
and we'll
when
say
a
that they are doing
government,
it.
when a government capitulates and succumbs and gives up the independence
Like I
of
said-
Indian foreign
like I
policy,
said earlier,
what
like I-
will you do?
Like I said earlier, I'm not going to oblige you by bringing down this
No,
government.
but what will you do?
No, we will continue to oppose it. We will continue to put pressure, and we will try and reverse it.
Okay, do you see your dilemma then? Thank you very much. You've just illustrated it for me. On the one hand, you say that you won't oblige me by saying you're going to bring down the government. On the other hand, you say we're going to continue to put pressure and we're going to continue to oppose it.
And reverse
And
it.
you
and
know
reverse
what the,
it.
and you know what the
reverse it.
government
No,
will
no,
understand. The government will say they'll
have-
put pressure,
you
they'll
have not.
howl, they'll
No,
screech,
you have-
but they cannot
You deliberately did not
You're
refer to
not
my
doing
last
much
point.
reversing. You're not doing much reversing.
I will do, na.
So what do we
Not
do
at
with
your,
you?
your
You
bidding.
haven't succeeded
Not at
yet.
your bidding.
You haven't
Not at
succeeded.
your bidding. I'm sorry. I
It's
will
too
do
late
when
to
I will
reverse
develop
the relationship
I,
with USA.
I
It's
will
too-
please listen. I will do what I think I need to do at my bidding, not at yours.
The problem is,
not at anybody else's.
the problem is, those
Please.
are grand, brave words,
No,
but they
grand-
are hollow assurances of faith.
It's up to you.
You lack the courage
Up
to
to you.
withdraw support. If you had it, the government would heed your line. You don't have
Oh.
the courage of it.
Thank you. Neither are you in the government, nor are you in the opposition.
No, but I'm
neither
an
are you
observer
following.
and I
Neither
can
are you
see.
following. Neither are you following. I mean, very carefully what all is happening and why these changes are happening.
Like that wonderful line from Shakespeare.
Do not bring in these questions of trying to say that you are not.
I tell you why. Because you're full of sound and fury, but it signifies nothing.
So you think.
Your anger comes
So
out
you
in
think.
interviews to
So you
people
think.
like me.
No,
but
no,
to
no.
the government,
I'm
you
sorry.
smile.
I'm sorry. So you think. It is the government of the day. I've given you a list of things which no other government in India, in independent
I've
India
given you a
has ever
list of
done.
things where the government has defied
So
you and
what?
you can't do a thing. You see the answer. So what?
I'm getting a lot of things done for the people with this, and at the same time, I'm continuously putting my pressure to make the government
Mr. Yechuri,
reverse.
look at the contradiction you're in.
I'm not in
You're
any contradiction.
supporting a government that's capitulated
Mr.
to US
Tapat,
pressure.
Mr.
You're
Tapat,
supporting a
however
government that's
much-
compromised independent foreign policy.
However much you
So you're
would want
losing your
to-
principles.
Not at all. However much you would like to see a fictitious or a fabricated contradiction, it doesn't exist. We
The
from day
contradiction is
one-
made by your statements.
No, we from day one have been saying our support to this government exists on the basis of an understanding of keeping the communal forces
And when they
at
breach
bay.
it, what do? You
Please,
continue supporting the government.
Let me come here. Be
But you
patient.
continue supporting
Be
the government when
patient
they
for a
breach
minute.
it.
For a minute, be patient. And then we said the program that they'll have to follow is the National Common Minimum Program. And then many of the things that I've mentioned to you, they have.
But many of the
and
things
many of the
are
things
against
with,
it.
Yes, and on those things, our pressure will continue in order to make the government reverse
But
it.
the pressure's achieving nothing. They're not reversing a
So
thing.
you think that is the problem? I'm
This
saying.
is my
I've,
reason.
I've given you the list of
On
the
airport-
on rural employment, on tribal land issue, on bringing the educational institutions under social control.
And I'm giving
on,
you an opposite list. Airport privatization,
that's it.
FDI
So
and
evaluate
retail,
on
the
that.
Iran issue,
So you evaluate on
relationships
that.
with the United States.
They're all, the Iran issue, relation with the United States, all these things are in the gamut of the foreign policy, which we have opposed. We will
Airport
continue to oppose.
privatization is not
No,
foreign policy.
absolutely.
FDI and retail is not foreign policy.
and listen-
Disinvestment of PSU is not foreign
I don't know-
policy.
I don't know what
and
you're
you claim they're
barking-
all breaches of the CMP.
I'm sorry, you're barking around the same tree, going round and round and achieving nothing. Because the point is that the FDI in retail, they wanted to completely open up. They have not been able to.
So your great
have not been-
achievement is you've reduced them to a little opening, not a big opening.
I mean,
but they're still open.
You don't have to be very sarcastic about
The
it. Mr.
CPI
Tama.
manifesto has been breached.
No, please do not be sarcastic about it. It's a
The
very...
CPI
it is-
manifesto has been
So
breached.
ask them. The point that I am saying is...
So much
very
for
clear.
left unity. You just disown them.
Oh, thank you. But you know, thank you for your concern. I mean, I didn't know that you were so concerned about left unity. But as far as I'm telling you, that there are a number of these issues on which that government had to take measures and steps which no other government would have taken, and this is happening
Mr.
because of
Yechuri,
its support.
can I put something to you?
Yes.
I said the problem was you lacked the courage to pull the rug from under the government. The truth is, let me finish and then you answer. The truth is, you're so scared the BJP will come back to power, you're even keeping in office a UPA that uses you, abuses you, and sometimes kicks you in the teeth.
No, and now that you had your say, I go by the feedback and evaluation I get from the Indian people, and not by somebody else who wants some other agenda to follow.
I mean, the Indian people have a
okay,
private
okay.
line to Sitaram Yechuri, do they?
They have a public straight line, because we interact with them straight. And we do, and that is where we have to answer. And the biggest acid test is going to come in Bengal and Kerala. You just watch. When we come back,
That's your hope.
what do you mean hope? That is going to be the
I
reality.
put it to you.
That
if
is
it's
going to
not
be the reality.
If it's not fear of the BJP, then it's fear of an election where you know you won't win so many seats and you want to enjoy the 60 odd that you have for as long as you can.
You see, what is the fear you're talking of?
The fear of losing those seats and not coming back, so you can't put the rug
What
under
fear
the
of the
government.
BJP is what fear? It's not deal making in politics, my dear. That's not why we are there. Let me tell you, others may be. I mean, or you may be used only to that. We are here because we firmly believe communal politics at the helm of affairs in the country is not in the interest of India or its people. So it's not a fear of that. It's not a fear for something else.
Kipling once said that power without responsibility was the harlot's prerogative. I put it to you.
Yes.
Today you have responsibility without power.
That's very good.
You're responsible for keeping the government in office. They're abusing you.
No, not
and there's nothing you can do about it.
There is something that we will do about it when we think, we decide, then that
That's
we will
the problem.
decide. That we will
Those
decide.
are excuses.
No, that
They're
we will
covering
decide.
up for the fact
I
that
told you
you've
again,
been
I have to repeat it again to you. I'm not going to oblige you. I will decide. It's after all my support that the government is on. So we will decide when we think it's not.
There's
no
a very
longer
good
the interest of the
chance
country.
when you face the electorate in Kerala and Bengal in 2 months' time, they're going to turn around and say to you, you promise one thing, you do something else, and you're taken for a ride by the government at the center.
I'll take up this challenge. Let's meet 2 months later, and I'll make you eat your words. When we come back victorious in both the states. And then, yes, on this very program, 2 months later, let's meet after this.
Except for the fact that if you don't come back as victorious as you'd like to be, if you end up doing not as well, you're going to be tied to the apron strings of the UPA indefinitely.
Listen, they cannot be as victorious as we want to be. Either there's victory or defeat. I mean, you can't have a girl be, no, please, you can't have a girl being slightly pregnant. You're either pregnant or you're not.
Except,
so if we win,
politics,
if we win, we are going to win.
If you don't know.
I'm sorry,
No.
I'm saying we are going to win.
In politics,
that is
you
the thing,
can
very
win,
simple.
but in comparison to how you were doing, you can still do badly, and you know that.
No,
that's what I'm talking about.
But what I was talking to you about is victory in these two states. And yes.
And then will you stand up for your rights?
Well, we are already standing up. We'll win only because we are standing up for
So in
our
fact,
rights.
the government should be very scared if you're winning, because then you might actually choose to pull the rug. Then you have the confidence.
No, I mean, we will win these states because we are standing up to our rights.
Sitaram Yechuri, a pleasure talking to you.
Thanks.